Eddie Yeranian joining us now live in Cairo, our man in the Middle East. Eddie, after the midterms, great to have you.
Thank you, John. Yes, at least it seems like the situation is a little bit more optimistic at this point, we hope.
Well, there's no hope there. I mean, we were disappointed. The Republicans certainly disappointed. I guess the biggest blow was Arizona. We expected to win that. McSally losing to very liberal U.S. Senator Kirsten Sinema. But, I mean, it's over now. He can't do anything about it. Republicans will have gained 2 seats in the U.S. Senate. And looks like they're losing 30 seats in the House, maybe 32 or 33. There's still some that are out there close to call. But most of the races now that the Democrats are going to win are already in the box. Those that are still hanging in the balance, the Republicans are ahead by the margin of error. There's recounts going on. So the Democrats have won 18 seats. 18, I think, is the final. No, excuse me. 17 seats in districts that Trump carried. Now, remember, going into 2018, there were a number of seats that the Republicans had in districts that Hillary carried. That's what gave the Democrats their momentum. You go into 2020, you put Trump on the top of the ticket, and you've got 17 districts that he carried in 2016 that he's going to carry again in 2020 with Democrats in there, 2 of them right in Virginia. So the dynamics change, the momentum changes. You go from defense to offense, and I think the Republicans in great shape in 2020 to win everything back. So we'll see how it plays out. Meantime, Edward, the Khashoggi affair. Now, Erdogan, who, by the way, President Erdogan of Turkey, you have to admit, Edward, as a person in the media, Erdogan and his party in the Turkish government has played the international and U.S. media on this masterfully. I mean, the way he's leaked things out, the way he's kept it in the news. Now we get new details. Apparently, in the tape that Gina Haspel heard, that briefed the presidents while we haven't heard anything, apparently, in the tape, someone says, tell your boss that the mission is complete. This reported today in the New York Times. That's what an operative said over the phone after the killing last month of Khashoggi in the Saudi consulate. Was the operative referring to MBS? Who else could it be? Tell your boss. I mean, come on. I mean, look, Edward, the 17 guys, 18 Saudi intel people didn't get on 2 airplanes, go to Istanbul, go to the local Walmart and say, excuse me, can I get 2 barrels of that dissolving acid over there? And we need a couple chainsaws. Can those saw through bones? I mean, come on, Edward. You know this was planned, right?
Well, John, yeah, I assume so. That is where the indicators are pointing. But I think it's a bigger issue than that. I think the issue is the media tends to come out with narratives that they want to push and pump and keep pushing and keep pumping for subterranean reasons, political reasons, geopolitical reasons, strategic reasons that really have nothing to do with the issue at hand. Because, as I think I've said before, and once again, not to justify killing Jamal Khashoggi, whom I knew, that there are a lot of other journalists that have been killed, among whom some at the hand indirectly of Mr. Erdogan, and also many other governments kill journalists, and they don't even admit it. Some that we even suspect have been taken down by our own government, and I don't want to go there. I can't prove it, but certainly things that make me very, very suspicious. And here's the thing: the BBC has been running with this story without stopping ever since Jamal got killed. And they run the BBC Arabic service, at least. The other BBC in English hits on it a lot, but certainly the Arabic service spends about 3 minutes of its 5-minute newscast talking about Jamal Khashoggi, no matter what's going on. And overnight we've had this eruption in Gaza, which really should be the top story. But no, the BBC Arabic service is still pumping Jamal Khashoggi. Okay, a lot of people don't like Mohammed bin Salman. I know that. But one of the reasons they don't like him is because he's against the Muslim Brotherhood, which you never, ever hear in the media. You don't hear that the British are supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. The reason you hear it here in Egypt is because the Egyptians are not supporting the Muslim Brotherhood. And the British have constantly sided with the Muslim Brotherhood. So did President Obama and all his strategic operatives like Mr. Brennan. So, I don't want to overdo this, but it's a subject the media never talks about. And when I see them going hog wild on a narrative which really is out of proportion to what's happened, I mean, you have to ask yourself why they want the Muslim Brotherhood to be in power in Saudi Arabia. Why? Because, I mean, there's a lot of speculation as to why, and I really can't prove it. But strategically, a lot of Western countries would like to see the Muslim Brotherhood in power in various parts of the Middle East, if not all of it. And you see that in Libya right now. You see that in Libya because you have countries like Britain supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in Tripoli. And they've never, you pointed out the last time we spoke that the Muslim Brotherhood does win elections in places. They've never won an election in Libya. And here you are, you have Western governments supporting them in Tripoli, in Libya.
Okay, that's not really answered the question, though. So Jamal Khashoggi goes in there, and now Erdogan leaks out through tapes that they put a plastic bag over his head, which is one of the most painful ways to die. Okay, this is not like they choked him or broke his neck. I mean, they put a bag over the guy's head. I mean, Edward, I get the whole Muslim Brotherhood thing, but, I mean, is there no accountability for having somebody come into a consulate, putting a bag over their head, chopping them up, dissolving them in acid, sprinkling it in the garden, covering it up, having this elaborate cover-up plans? People go out, they don't put his shoes on, and then you tell 20 different stories and lie to everybody on a continual period of time. How do you then deal with Mohammed bin Salman? How do you deal with him when obviously he was involved in this? I mean, yes, I get that things happen in various countries, but if they wanted the guy out, I mean, they could have assassinated him in a dark alley. I mean, instead, they go through this. I mean, it just seems to me to be one of the most incompetent, horrific things in a consulate. And then they give the employees the day off. I mean, you could go on and on and on with this. I mean, if you were writing a play on this, it would get rejected as too crazy. So, I mean, I get the Muslim Brotherhood thing, but I don't know how Western governments go forward in taking this guy as a serious leader. I don't see how the Saudis can get through this without a shakeup in leadership. I just don't see it. I mean, the next time that Mohammed bin Salman calls President Trump on the phone after he allegedly, I think, probably just lied to him, I mean, what would that conversation be like? I don't know how you come back from this. I just don't. Walk me through a pathway for Mohammed bin Salman to come back from this so I understand it.
Well,
go ahead.
Bashar al-Assad has come back from all the Western efforts to topple him since 2006, I guess. They tried using the interior minister as in a coup. They tried to topple him with these opposition protests. And all of the Western leaders that said they wanted to topple him are gone. And Bashar is still there, which is not to say he's a wonderful person. I don't know how bad a person he is. Certainly a lot of other people have killed a lot of people, too. I just have to say that there are a lot of other things that are awful that don't get covered in the Western media because they don't want to cover them. It doesn't fit their narratives. It doesn't fit their interests, somebody's interest, not even the interest of the United States, but the interest of the people who own the media groups or who own the banks that own the media groups. And they have a lot of agendas which you never hear about. And I guess maybe I know about a lot of those agendas because I've been out here in the Middle East for 31 years, and I've heard about them repeatedly, and I've seen them at play, and I see them not getting covered by the media. And here we are. We have a story. Okay, but I didn't answer your question. To be perfectly fair, how do I see it playing out? Well, I see it playing out. It's an internal affair because the Saudis are not going to topple Mohammed bin Salman. At least that's my prediction. I doubt it's going to happen. The king, he's his favorite son. And as I've said before, a lot of other things have happened. Many of the Saudis I've spoken with, I see a lot of Saudis here in Cairo, are irate that the West has been making a big subject of this. And a lot of people have pointed out to me that people inside the kingdom have tried to kill Mohammed bin Salman. So they tell me that there's a lot of legitimate reason why he would want to lash out at his opponents. And Jamal Khashoggi just happened to be at the forefront of those opponents because he's in the West, he's the darling of the media, and he's been getting a lot of play in the press. So it's a lot more complicated than we're making it out to be. And even morally, it's a lot more complicated because there are a lot of people that have blood on their hands and a lot of people that have a lot more blood on their hands than Mohammed bin Salman. And that's the truth, not because I want to defend him. I think it's an awful thing to go killing people. And I'm as a Christian, I oppose it. But, there you have it. A lot of other people have killed people, including Mr. Erdogan, who has a lot of blood on his hands. A lot of blood, believe me.
Edward, what about incompetence? When you look at what MBS has done, the Yemen civil war would be hard to justify that's gone well, right? Millions of people starving, children eating leaves off trees, famine all over the place, blowing up school buses. I mean, that's been a disaster, right? That's number one. Second thing he got his hands on was the Gulf blockade against the state of Qatar, okay? Blew up in his face, Gang of Four, Qatar is better off, made no difference, cost them money. Now they're going to try to do a moat. That's billions of dollars they don't have. And the state of Qatar's laughing at them because their economy is better than ever as a result of the blockade. So he did that. That blew up in his face, right? That was incompetent. Then you look at this Khashoggi murder, and that was a comedy of incompetent errors. At what point does King Salman just say, you know what? The guy put in there is just not competent. He's just bumbling. He can't do the job. He's 33 years old. At what point does the Saudi kingdom reach that conclusion?
The king will not reach that conclusion. Perhaps, and I think this is what a lot of Western media organizations and a lot of Western intelligence agencies are hoping will happen. They're hoping that a group of princes will either pull a coup or convince the king to remove his son. But I don't see that happening. And I think a lot of the adventurism that we're seeing in the Western press is just that. They're trying to create a coup. They're not actually seeing a coup. They're not seeing any reasonable chance that that's going to happen, but they're trying to provoke it, which is, that's abominable. I am even more against that than I am about killing journalists. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is geopolitics at its worst. Mm-hmm. And you have to ask yourself what their interests are again. And once again, it comes back to the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't see any other way around it, and I don't want to overdo the subject, but there you have it.
Okay, so you're right. I'm part of the Western media, and looking at this thing just realistically and understanding the amount of energy that the Trump administration has invested in the Saudi kingdom, not only as their buttress against Iran in that area, but also they're using the Saudis to broker some sort of a peace between Israel and Palestine. So they've invested a lot in the Saudi relationship. And now this is problematic for the Trump administration. They can't just look the other way and make believe it didn't happen. They're going to have to deal with it. There's going to have to be some policy change or something. But don't you agree with me that the easiest way out of this for everybody is for MBS to just be replaced? If he was replaced, he becomes a scapegoat for this horror, and then you move on. Wouldn't that be the easiest answer?
It might be, but you're assuming that the people inside the kingdom are, one, able to do this, two, want to do this, and three, should do this. Now, I've heard how many European leaders say that they want Trump replaced. A lot of people were speculating that he would be replaced because for one reason or another he'd be impeached. Do you want someone from the outside trying to do that inside of your country? I mean, my country too. I don't mean to lay the blame on you. It's my country as well. We obviously said we didn't And that's where this adventurism in the media and in the outside world really needs to be examined more closely, because a lot of people, a lot of organizations have an interest in removing Mohammed bin Salman, much more so than a moral quandary as to what we should do because someone was killed. Because, once again, a lot of people have been killed. A lot of governments kill people. And I mean, I could even start naming names. And of course, that's not going to help the issue. And once again, I don't want to downplay this. I realize that something will happen. Something needs to happen. But I believe Mohammed bin Salman is going to survive this, not because I want him to survive it, not because I take any money from Saudi Arabia. I don't take any money from anyone, but I see a lot of people who are trying to get rid of him that do. So what to say? I don't know. It's a moral quandary. It's a geopolitical quandary. What we deal with Vladimir Putin, and he's killed some people too. I mean, you come to a point where a country is a country. You can't just tell them we want to change your leadership. It just isn't possible. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, who knows? Maybe they will provoke a coup, and I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Okay, so let's go.
I don't see it happen.
Let's go, Eddie Yeranian, with your theory that Mohammed bin Salman stays in power in Saudi Arabia. Then the next thing they have to do in order to revitalize the relationship, because the president's going to have to do something. And he said if he was convinced that the Saudi leadership was behind it, that he was going to take severe action. And he doesn't mess around, as you know. So he's going to do something. Best thing that the Saudis can do now, if he stays in power, is to change their policy in the Yemen civil war and just get out. And that would be a change in policy that would appease a lot of both Republicans and Democrats who are upset over this. Nobody thinks we should be involved in that war anyway. And that would be a policy change that they could make, and we would be able to put something solid on the table. I mean, absent of that, I don't know how this relationship gets revitalized. You can't sweep it under the carpet. I get the Muslim Brotherhood. I get where you're coming from, but you simply can't say, well, other governments do it. It's just part of doing business. Don't think you can do that. Not when you put a bag over somebody's head that was living in America in a consulate and just let the guy suffocate and he's screaming and they got the tape. I just don't think you can do that. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just not looking at this the right way. But, Eddie, the president is going to do something. He's just not going to sit back and say, you know what happens, right? He's going to do something.